The Rise of Skywalker just came out. It was a movie that happened, conclusion of the Skywalker saga. Very interesting movie, and I'm going to get into it here. I'd like to point out right away this is going to have some major spoilers if you don't want to know anything about the movie, and then don't watch this video until you see it, and then even then, I mean, I'm sure a lot of you guys seen the movie already, and if you haven't, you're obviously not worried about spoilers or anything, because let's face it, the Star Wars fandom hates Star Wars so much. I did not like this movie. It felt generic and boring and so much exposition and weird character moments and just boring. Like, I don't know why this one just, it did not check any of the boxes I needed a movie like this to check for me. As a conclusion, it missed all the marks. This to me felt a lot like Endgame, and I was not a big fan of Endgame. You are closing this big chapter in film history, and you are just doing everything so lazily and predictable, and you're not taking any chances. I guess that's a big thing for me with this movie was it didn't take any chances. Everything it did was just so predictable, and you saw it coming, and you just expected it from everything that happened. So much fan service, and I want to read a quote to you guys on my Twitter. I got it from a guy on my Twitter. His name's Robert Meyer Burnett. I highly recommend checking him out. He's a fan fanatic. He's a film fanatic. He's an auteur, I'd say. He understands this genre and this, the way things are done in this industry. And he posted this quote on his Twitter, which I follow him on Twitter. He posted this quote from Gene Roddenberry. I am not sure if this is actually from Gene Roddenberry or if it's just somebody put his face next to the quote, but I want to read the quote to you guys. And you cannot be a good producer, writer, anything if the first thing you ask is, what do they want? That's what prostitutes do. I write what I think they should have and what I think they'll enjoy. Now, I wanted to bring this quote up because this is everything that The Last Jedi did. This quote defines The Last Jedi, my favorite Star Wars movie to come out since Empire Strikes Back. I could probably argue which one I like more, Empire or The Last Jedi, but that's exactly what The Last Jedi did. It didn't ask the audience what they wanted. It expected something of the audience to want something new and creative. So here's my biggest complaint with The Rise of Skywalker. It undid everything that was done in The Last Jedi. It retroactively went back and took everything that made that movie unique, original, brilliant, different, and it forced down a perspective that the audience would want more than what the filmmaker wanted to show you. I really like Rian Johnson. He has gotten a very bad rep for The Last Jedi. And it's amazing he still is positive. He is about the genre and the filmmaking that is Star Wars and doing that kind of stuff. He's very positive. He still talks to fans. He's very supportive. Before I saw The Rise of Skywalker, I watched The Last Jedi again. It is such a good movie. I teared up. Then I watched the audio commentary because you could tell Rian Johnson wanted to do something here that was unseen in Star Wars up until that point, and he really did that work. So in The Rise of Skywalker, I don't know who this was. I know that Abrams kind of rushed everything at the end there because Trevorrow left the project for other reasons. So I don't know whose fault it is with what happened, but he somehow managed to do everything that Rian Johnson did and just completely change it. So Snoke meant nothing. Rey's parents being nobodies meant nothing. The rebellion having no supporters meant nothing. Kylo Ren's arc meant nothing. None of it meant anything because we had to go back and do the things that people wanted to see instead of making people like what we could have done. I love Rian Johnson. I feel so bad for this guy. He deserves more than he was given for making The Last Jedi. And I don't want to trash talk Abrams here. That's not my intention, is to trash talk him. Watching this movie, it did not feel like a lot of effort was put into it. It just felt easy, and you go into this and you see, how do we make the fans happy with what we can do? We'll check off all these boxes, and it checks off way too many boxes for my liking. I'll get into more spoiler stuff later, but it was so basic. You want it checked off. It's like, We need to have somebody that Rey's related to. We need to have some important cameos. We need to have certain characters do certain things, and it just didn't make any sense to me. I hate fan service in anything. It just shows you that if you cater to your audience, you're never going to grow as a filmmaker or as a franchise. If you just keep giving them what they want, you need to explore new ideas. It's the same reason I think the Avengers franchise is kind of losing its stead and Marvel might be falling because of it. It's the same reason I think John Wick gets repetitive and annoying. It's when you're not doing anything new and you're just giving people what they want, you're not growing or changing or anything. Saying all that, there is certain things I did like in this movie, and I'd like to touch on those really quickly. First off, my boy back here, Billy D. Williams. I didn't know what to expect when Lando came back. Lando is my favorite character in Star Wars. And when he came back, I was very impressed because I didn't know how it was going to go. You see Billy D. Williams in real life, and he isn't as active as he was, when he was in his 40s or any of that kind of stuff. So you have a certain expectation of who Lando is, and it's safe to say that for some reason, Billy D really put in the work here. And he became that Lando again. He was happy, he was joyful, he was doing the yeehaws and all that, and it really worked. So I was really happy to see him come back. Very forced entry back into this world. Didn't make a lot of sense to me, but hey, I don't know. Another thing I really liked, right next to Lando as my favorite character in the entire Star Wars saga, C-3PO. C-3PO finally gets a lot of play in a movie like this, and I've said numerous times, I don't know if I've ever said it on any of my videos, but C-3PO I think is the most relatable character in a Star Wars movie. He's our point of view character when we first see him in A New Hope. R2's kind of a little asshole, but when you're seeing C-3PO, he is just somebody I always loved, and he had a lot of good play in this, and I was really happy to see him get a lot of that good play in this. Certain things happen with him. We have a whole side storyline with him where his memory gets wiped, and I wish that scene had more impact for me because this is my favorite droid in all these movies. And everyone has just treated him like garbage up to this point. So you see him making this big sacrifice, and nobody's taking it with the stakes I wanted people to take it with. C-3PO is so underrated, and nobody cares for him the way he deserves, and that scene really hurt, and I don't know, I wanted more from that scene, but everything else was really good. The only joke that I really laughed at was when he's explaining what's going on at this weird festival, weird CGI dance scene, and, Rey, Finn, and Poe, they all look back to him, and, just shut up, and he looks back to you like there's something behind him because he doesn't know he's the fault. That's the only joke I laughed at. Everything else was just kind of annoying. I mean, that's basically all I liked. I mean, there's certain moments that I was impressed with. Chewie getting the medal, that was a good callback. I'm glad they put that in there, and Maz giving it to him. It worked. Certain moments in Kylo Ren's arc. I really like Kylo Ren. He's my favorite of these new sequel characters. But some things just happened with him that Johnson did so good in The Last Jedi with his character and finally breaking him down to the point where he needs to be in control and just you have the arc in The Force Awakens. He's struggling with the light. Last Jedi, you crush that because, now we're done. He's going to be the bad guy. We don't have to redeem him. And of course, Rise of Skywalker. Let's redeem him. Make him the good guy again. I'm not upset with him being redeemed. Why are you doing this to Rian Johnson? He did so much for you guys, and he put so much in The Last Jedi, and we're going to take back everything he did. It's so annoying. So let's get into the stuff I didn't like about this movie. There's a lot I want to talk about here, so let's just jump into it. First off, Rose didn't do anything, and that seems like another shot at Rian Johnson for introducing this character and having her do absolutely nothing. That really made me mad. Again, R2-D2 does nothing. The sequel trilogy has something against R2-D2, and that bothers me too. We introduce a new droid in Dio, and he's a really fun, interesting character. I have nothing against that little droid, but it's not for me. It's not for me. BB-8 also isn't for me. I'm not a big fan of BB-8. I think the design's cool. The gimmick wore thin for me really fast, so I don't really care about it. Another thing, let's start with this. A lot of weird planet names. I can't remember any of the names, but so there's this one planet that Poe is. I don't know if he was born there or if he is supposed to have lived there before. It's kind of this weird, dark planet. It reminds me a lot of Canto Bight, but like the seedy underbelly of Canto Bight. We have that he used to be a spice runner on this planet, which, okay, I get that. That's cool. I like Poe having that history. But if I'm not mistaken, his parents met at the Battle of Endor, or after the Battle of Endor at the weird ceremony in Shattered Empire. Because I did read Shattered Empire, and I know that a Dameron was there, and I'm pretty sure it was one of his parents, or both his parents were at the Battle of Endor, and they've always been with the rebellion. So it made no sense to me that Poe was actually on a different planet, or did his parents move there and he just kind of fell into a shady crowd? And then if that's the case, I don't really care. Like I just think it's kind of lazy if you spend a lot of time setting up Shattered Empire, that being Poe, and then Abrams doesn't even bother to check it out. That's what bothers me about that. And speaking of that weird planet where he was a spice runner, Zora Bliss, a character who I was very excited for. It's one of my favorite new designs in this new trilogy. And Kerry Russell, who I've talked about before on this channel, I absolutely love her as an actress, and she's such a great talent. She was very underutilized and just used as a love interest who, I don't know, so bad. And okay, there's another thing about this trilogy, especially this movie, that really was weird to me. The sexual tension between every character. I don't know if I'm the only one that thought this, but there's a weird kind of love triangle between, is Rey gonna date Finn? Is Rey gonna date Poe? Is Poe gonna date Finn? Is Finn gonna date Rose? Is Rose gonna date Rey? Is Janna gonna be with Finn? Is Rey gonna be with Kylo? And is Poe actually gay, but he's gonna be with Zori? I don't know. It was so stupid. It feels like this movie was afraid to let the characters have a romantic entanglement. I mean, a big part of some of the other movies was Anakin and Padme, Leia and Han. Those are big parts of those other movies. And you even look at some of the other media too. Obi-Wan Kenobi and Sabine, yeah, even The Mandalorian and a supposed past of somebody. There's a lot of that in there. But it's because this is like a young, fresh look. It seems like we're not letting these characters have romantic entanglements. I'm not trying to. But we get one weird kiss that I was actually really happy it happened, because it would shut a lot of people up about these two characters of Kylo and Rey getting together. It was so forced and stupid that I was actually pissed it happened. I liked that it happened, but it was like, I didn't like it for the right reasons. Like, this is going to shut a lot of people up, and it makes no sense in context for what's happening. So that was a big letdown, honestly. So let's just go back to this one thing. Obviously, Carrie Fisher has passed away. It happens, and it's part of life. I'm not upset that she died. I'm not mad. Things happen, life is complicated, and I love her as an actress. Rest in peace. Obviously, all that. And you could tell this footage that they had of Carrie wasn't meant for this movie, and the dialogue seemed very out of place. I'm not faulting anyone for that. There's no way to go around that. But I simply just think you didn't have to have her in this movie. We do have some CGI scenes with a younger Leia, which that was really cool to see. And I guess it seemed like it just came out of nowhere that she trained as a Jedi. I know it happened in lore and a bunch of other, I think in some comics and some other continuity, but the movies didn't acknowledge that. And I didn't even know she had her own lightsaber. That seems really weird. And she gave it all up because she saw a future where her son did something and somebody else would wield her lightsaber. Whatever. Very lazy, very stupid, very easy way for her not to be a Jedi. I don't care, but she dies in this movie. So the last of our original trilogy characters is gone. That was the big three. Chewbacca gets some good stuff in here. He didn't do anything though. That's the problem. Just hanging out with these kids that don't. I don't know. It doesn't make any sense with Chewbacca in here. There's one big thing I'm avoiding talking about because it's my least favorite thing. So let's talk more about the other stuff I didn't like. Why is Janna even a character in this? She didn't do anything. She served no purpose. I don't imagine we're going to see more of her. Why couldn't we just explicitly say that Finn was force sensitive? We just had to beat around the bush to the point it became exhausting. Why was the entire first act a video game where it's like we have to find the magic thing. We're going to all these different levels. Oh, we don't actually find the thing. We find a clue to get to the thing. It's like solving a mystery, and it's not interesting or fun to watch. Why was it called The Final Order? And how come the big bad of this, Palpatine, fuck that, fuck you, I hate Palpatine as the villain in this. Why was his thing called The Final Order and he just had a bunch of Star Destroyers buried with him? Where did they come from? Why did he need those? I did not like this movie. And the more I think about it, the more I'm actually very let down and upset. And the more I applaud Rian Johnson for what he did. So let's talk about the big part of this. And that is... this is what happens when you give people what they want. Because people are stupid. Rey is a Palpatine. Hooray! I hate it. I hate that. I know they teased Palpatine in this movie for a long time. I hated it. I never wanted him in this movie. We set up Kylo Ren as the big bad in The Last Jedi. Let's not go back and ruin everything we just set up because it's so not interesting. I don't like Palpatine as a villain. His plan never really made sense to me, and I don't find him interesting or compelling. He's not a good character. And here we just see that Rey is his granddaughter. Oh, first off, who's fucking Palpatine? Who did the dirty with that guy? Because it had to be, what? When did that happen? I don't even understand the timeline where that happened. We don't get an explanation of how he survived the fall in Return of the Jedi. Whatever. Who cares? It's not that important, obviously, because they didn't talk about it. But no, his plan, he's going to destroy the world again. He's got planet destroyers, and it's awesome. We're going to have a big battle in space and all our supporters, and everything's going to be so fun and cool. And it wasn't. It was just The Force Awakens again without a Death Star. Like, that's all it was. You made a big deal in The Last Jedi that nobody is supporting this rebellion, and now all of a sudden we got hundreds of people coming to save them because it's Palpatine. Like, that undermines Kylo Ren as a villain. I hate it. I don't understand why these choices were made. Do you guys not like Rian Johnson? Why'd you even let him do the movie then if you're not gonna work off anything he did? It's so annoying. It completely takes you out of the movie. It completely does. So Rey's a Palpatine. Her whole story is she gonna turn bad or is she good? And there's no clear explanation given to what she does actually. She just kind of... I like Daisy Ridley, but I don't think Rey's been a really well-written character or that fleshed out. I'm not saying she needs to be this perfect character whose every intention is played out for us to understand, but we don't really know anything about her. Her whole arc is trying to find out who her parents are. We got a conclusion of that in The Last Jedi. They were nobody. The person who likes her, cares about her, is Ben Solo. That's how that story plays out. We don't need to go back to that one in this Rise of Skywalker. But we do, and it's Palpatine, so fuck that. I don't know, man. But something about Rey, she didn't have that thing that even Anakin had, that Obi-Wan had, that Luke had. And it's not like a female thing, and it's not a Mary Sue thing. Her character just hasn't had that. Well, to me at least. Maybe to a young girl out there, I don't know. Maybe to a young girl, this character is very interesting and unique, but to a guy who's watched all these movies and all the cartoons and read a lot of the comic books, something about this character has just never sat with me as somebody I find compelling. Not like Kylo Ren, and I think Kylo Ren is really compelling, and I love his character. Again, we bring back the Knights of Ren, even though they did absolutely nothing. So who cares? Why bring them back? Why do any of this? I don't know, guys. This one, it just didn't make any sense to me. It was just so disappointing in the way it presented itself. It's all over the place. Characters explain everything to each other, so we don't get any actual growth. Everybody just kind of screams what they feel, and every line of dialogue feels like somebody talking to somebody, so they respond in a certain way. And it's very fan servicey, so it's okay. I'm glad they didn't go the route of seeing a bunch of different Force Ghosts. The only Force Ghosts we get are Luke and Leia, which I was really on board with. Mark Hamill, again, he's really good. He's really cool. And that was the one thing I like that they carried over from Rian Johnson is Luke finishes his arc by believing in the Jedi again. That's a really good arc. I'm really glad they put that in because it could have been really bad, but no, it worked. I'm really happy for that. Rey is now a Skywalker. She chose the name, whatever, it works, I'm okay with it. So the Rise of Skywalker, we completed the same arc we did at the end of The Force Awakens, and now she's a Jedi like she was at the end of The Last Jedi. It was just, it concludes the series, and I understand how some people are going to like this, and I'm on board with it. But as somebody who is just obsessed with The Last Jedi because it did something bold and unique, and I like what that did, this one didn't hit me, and it doesn't work for me. And if it works for you, that's great. I hope you like it, because I want people to like Star Wars again. I love this franchise. I really do. The things we love today don't exist without Star Wars. And I know there's a lot of things that came before it that kind of defined fandom. Star Trek, bringing back Roddenberry. But when it comes to Star Wars, it just hit it on a massive scale, on a global impact, and I want more of that. So now I want to talk about my theater experience watching The Rise of Skywalker. I went to an early fan event that they were having at one of the cinemas near me. They don't do a lot of this kind of stuff, so I jumped on it. So I jumped on the opportunity to go see an early screening. A lot of the guys, some guys behind me in line, were talking about, we're getting to a debate about Baby Yoda and The Mandalorian and when it takes place. I guess people don't know when it takes place? I thought it was pretty clear. It's after Return of the Jedi. But I guess to some people, I think that the Baby Yoda, who's actually called the child, you people need to know this, is actually Baby Yoda. And it takes place hundreds of years before. There's stormtroopers in this. So I don't know. One of the guys behind me got stood up. A girl was going to come meet him there. Didn't show up. He accidentally spilled his entire bag of popcorn onto the floor right next to me. Very funny to see that. We got some cool pins. I can't remember where I put mine, but really cool memorabilia piece. There was a dad there with his 3 kids, and he had his wife was there too. So it was the dad, the wife, and the 3 kids. And there was some weird collector cups, and he wanted to get all the collector cups. So he actually went back as the movie was about to start, like during the previews, and he went back and he bought like 6 different cups with like 6 different toppers because he wanted to keep them all in its pristine condition. So I was really cool to see that. I liked seeing that. And just seeing the fandom come back to life. So I really hope people like this movie, you know, because when people like Star Wars is the best. And the fans have kind of just hit or miss it for a long time now. I know The Last Jedi gets a lot of hate. I know Admiral Holdo gets a lot of hate, and just a lot of things people aren't on board with about this. But I wish The Rise of Skywalker worked for me so I would have these different feelings and better feelings about this whole saga. But as it stands, I think this is the weakest movie in the entire series. You can say what you will about the prequels, but they did something bold and unique, and I can support it. I think that overall is a better story. If you were to just take the stories and put them on paper, which I don't like to do because it's film, it's a different media. So if you just took these pieces of paper, obviously the sequel trilogy looks better on screen, the visuals are better, the editing is better. By the way, there's some great cinematography in this where you see some really good scenes of Finn and Poe going down one of the Star Destroyers. Just the way the camera follows them, absolutely gorgeous, perfect, probably some of the best cinematography in Star Wars history. But if you just take down the story, take down this story of Rey's journey from discovering she is a Jedi in 3 different movies to Anakin's descent into evil, and you could even compare that to Kylo's descent to evil to redemption. I think the prequels are a better story overall, just in terms of character development and emotion. And why couldn't we just say Finn was Force sensitive? Why did we have to beat around that bush? I really hated that. Really did not like that. Don't cater to your fans because you're not doing anything creative or unique, and it just upsets me. And who am I? Just some guy that likes Star Wars, right? I don't know, guys. I hope everyone likes this one because it could be really good, and it's definitely worth checking out if you are a fan. It's gonna make a lot of money, I know it is, and this might be one of the cases where the critics all hate it and then the fans really like it. So let me know what you guys think about this movie. If there's anything I didn't discuss that you wanted to talk about, maybe I'll do a companion video where I bring up certain issues that didn't work for me or did work for me. Or even if you saw me talk about how come C-3PO is the most relatable character in Star Wars, let's do that. I want more people to like Star Wars, and if this is the movie that gets you involved, I hope you can go back and see the other ones for what they are. and stop hating on Rian Johnson. He deserves so much more than what he's been given, and I really hope he does make a trilogy because he deserves it more than most people do. So that's going to do it for me in this video. Like the video, give it a thumbs up, hit the notifications, and subscribe. Let's pump up those numbers. These are rookie numbers. I will catch you guys in the next video, and may the Force be with you.